Rip and Riff with Jared and Adam. Welcome in to another edition of Rip and Riff for your Labor Day weekend and our Labor Day weekend here on the Better Sports Network. I'm Adam Bernard, and with me, as always, is Mr. Jared Moore. Jared, how are we doing on one of the better weekends of the calendar year?
It's one of the best weekends. You got football's right around the corner. Football's actually here if you're into college football. It's week 0 in college, so get excited for that. It's Labor Day weekend, so one last if you're into making the summer beach trip, you could do that. If you're like me and you like to spend all of your free time when you're not working in an air-conditioned casino or playing video games, that works too. You do what makes you happy, Adam. And to the listeners in general, you do what makes you happy.
Exactly. It's Labor Day weekend, which means you work hard, so you get to play as hard as you want, or relax, whatever you want to do. This is
now we're old, so we're not going to play all that hard.
No. The days of playing hard are. I was just in LA last weekend with some buddies from Metallica, so there'll be no playing hard this weekend. There'll be grilling, but there'll be no playing hard. Now, college football, I believe the first Saturday is last weekend, but then today is like the first real Saturday where there's literally, if I'm on the West Coast, there's games kicking off at 9 a.m. all the way to like 7 o'clock at night. So that is one thing that I think college football has there's literally not a gap in action at any point in the day from noon Eastern till about 1, 2 in the morning sometimes. And if Hawaii's got a televised game, then
100%. And it's also the one weekend of the year I'm actually kind of into college football, because once the NFL starts, like you and I we'll pull back the curtain a little bit here. You and I are both native New Yorkers. College football in New York, not that big a deal. New York's a pro sports town. It's a baseball town first and foremost, but obviously football is very big there as well. You have a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Jet fans, a lot of fans of the national teams like the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Packers, all that sort of stuff. So it's really the one weekend of the year where, like, as a New Yorker, I was like, all right, I'll watch some college football. We'll kind of get the juices flowing a little bit because, we work, 5 days a week during the week, and we're not complaining about what we do, but you need a little time during the weekend to relax. And if you're going to give me the choice between the pros and college, I'm going to take NFL Sundays 10 times out of 10. It's just how it is. It's how I've come up, and I think it's how a lot of people who grew up where we grew up sort of look at that. But I'm excited for college football this weekend. Let's go, baby.
Now, if you give me a choice between college football or baseball, then it's college football pretty much all the time. Depending upon, how the Yankees are doing, which they're irrelevant at this point. Now, you're right. Growing up in New York, when we were kids, they tried to cram Syracuse down your throat and Penn State down your throat. Rutgers, right. Other than that couple of year window under Greg Schiano, his first time around, Rutgers always stunk. So and Notre Dame, in New York, if there was a college football team in New York, it would be Notre Dame. Me and my dad, not that we're big college football guys, but he served in the Army. If you've never been to a game at West Point, you should absolutely go up there. It is a very unique, not just college football experience, but just football experience, period.
It's a unique atmosphere. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I live 20 minutes away from West Point, and I try to get up there once a year if I can. Even though I literally just spent 5 minutes talking about how I don't watch college football regularly, but
it's that cool. It's that unique,
right? But just generally speaking, like most New Yorkers, unless like you either grew up like somewhere in the South, or you went to one of the schools, or like you kind of grew up on like watching Penn State games or watching Notre Dame, like for the most part, people here do not have a college football team. I think the Syracuse thing is one that's kind of pushed by a lot of people in our industry who work in sports media who happen to hail from that university.
One has nothing to do with the other, Jared. Absolutely nothing but to do with the other.
Right. But I think that's where a lot of that narrative comes from. And a lot of the other schools, like Rutgers, for example, they had like those 2 years under Greg Schiano, but they've also been irrelevant for the other 38 years of my life and long before that. So it is what it is. But, enough about college football, Adam. We've ripped along enough. I think it's about time we rip some cards. So what do you got this week, my friend?
Now, there's always the possibility that maybe one of the starting lineup figures later could be a college football guy. You never know. You just never know. Now, so today I'm going to be ripping. I'm going back to the early '90s. You know me. I love my junk wax era stuff. I got plenty of it in the closet. We're going to a French edition of the Upper Deck 1990-91 hockey series, NHL, or if you're French, LNH. So we're going to get some. We're going to go bilingual today here on Rip and Riff.
Now, I'm assuming those are just specialty packs that they put out, and specifically in like Montreal and Quebec, and the French-speaking part of Canada.
I have a whole box of them. I mean, that's they released the French. For hockey stuff, they would release French language, cards with the positions written in French and stuff like that. So I don't know how long they did that, but they did do that like the first couple of years. So
wow,
and also starting lineup, the first year they did hockey was 1993. They had a whole Canadian edition, even though it was the same exact thing as the American. It was just the box is different. But
it's kind of like a couple of years ago when we had the pandemic year in the NHL, and they literally had the Canadian division. It was just the 7 Canadian teams north of the border because of the travel restrictions and whatnot. All right, fun. So I'm excited for the hockey pack today. I'm gonna go to the diamond. We're gonna do a little baseball here. You see the little thing in the corner right there. Right below me, right?
You got the old Topps packs there.
The old Topps pack. So let's go with the authentic thing. Topps 1987 baseball cards. A stick of gum and 17 baseball cards from 1987. And because we're kind of going old school with an older pack, let's also go a little more modern. So we got a Topps Heritage pack from 2021, 9 cards. But they're all going to be designed to look like the retro baseball cards as well. So I'm really excited to open up this pack. And just to illustrate the difference between the two of these packs, this one, 40 cents. This one, $8. So it kind of says all you need to know about how much the hobby has kind of grown in the last 3 decades and how expensive it's gotten, because I'm sure 40 cents was probably the price at the time in 1987 to get, a nice pack of these cards.
I mean, heck, I remember when like spending $4 on a pack was like, whoa, you're going top shelf today, man. Look at you getting the $4 pack. Now that's like, whoa, $4. Give me like 7 of those.
100%. Yeah. And I did not pay 40 cents for that pack, by the way.
Now, but what you've done now is you've gotten the green 87 pack, so now you got to find the 88 red one and the 89 blue one and open those on the show to complete the logo.
I think I have the 89 behind me. I have a few more packs of the 87. I don't have the 88, so I'm gonna have to go on eBay. That'll be maybe when we get off this recording here. Maybe we'll go down that little eBay rabbit hole.
Let's see if we can find it out there and complete the set. I'm excited for that retro pack. I love when they do like the old throwback look with the modern players. It's great. It's really awesome. But I guess I'll get us kicked off here with a little hockey, which is a little over a month away, about 5 weeks away now. Very excited to have this puck drop this season. And don't forget, Jared has his daily hockey picks, and I'm over at Better Hockey Now with Chris Moraes and Anthony Rivera. Sorry, let me get the pack in front so you can get that sound. I mean, that's why we're here, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was satisfying. That was a good one. All right. Now, let's see here. All right. We got a name right off the top. Let's take
That's always nice. I like that.
So, Mr. Mark Recchi. Now, you got to love the look there. They used the color for the trim. They got the logo in the corner. Now, there's Alietta Droit, or Droy, however you say right wing. Or is that left wing or right wing? I believe that's right wing.
I think he was a right wing primarily.
So there you go. So there's a nice looking Mark Recchi card. Love that Penguins era jersey they brought back recently. So good start there. He won some cups.
That's a classic look that has not really changed over the years, and that's something the Pittsburgh teams in general, they haven't changed their look over the years. It's black and it's gold, and it's cool that as a city all their teams share that color palette.
Only city that does that in pro sports that has that's like 3. Like, if you have one team, you can't be like, oh, it's one team. So we got the Penguins there. And what I like about this now, my favorite set of all time is the year after this, the 91-92 Upper Deck, that look. But this is right up there with it. I mean, and this is Wendell Clark here. Alie Gaucher. So I don't know that one is left and one is right. So we'll say that's left, but Wendell Clark, and look at that Leafs era jersey there with the Leafs on the shoulders. That was like the end of the 80s right there. That was like the end of that look. That was a good one.
That's a fantastic look. And Wendell Clark is one of those guys. I know you and I are old school video game guys. I'm sure you've played NHL 94 and 95 on the Sega Genesis a bunch of times. Wendell Clark was one of the first guys I would always trade for. Whichever game let you actually make trades, he was always one of the first guys I would go out there and get. And like I would always play the devil as the devil, so I would always trade away like Stefan Richer and Pat Verbeek, and I would bring back like Wendell Clark and like Dino Ciccarelli.
I mean, listen, Wendell Clark was a hell of a player, but you know, I don't know if you know those are some trade. You know, that was also the fun part about those video game trades was like just like stacking your team, like when you just wanted to like when your fourth line was better than everybody else's top line.
Oh,
like,
100%. Yeah.
Now we go from a Leaf to a Canadian, Mike McPhee. Not really a big household name there, but a good-looking card. Nice picture there. You know, the referee in the background.
You're underselling it. What a mustache there.
Yeah, that's true. He does have quite the soup strainer there. Yeah, I mean that's the look nowadays too. So it always comes back. We got a couple of back-to-back Blues here. Neither really big names here. Rick Meager, and then who was once a captain of the Blues. Good-looking Blues jersey, that white one there. And then
that's a look that hasn't changed a lot over the years either. Yeah, I mean the Blues still have a very, very similar look.
They had that era where they had the like the music, like the red with like the music notes on the cross of the bottom of the jersey, like you know, like that was. I have one of those in the closet. I love that jersey. But yeah, other than that, they've pretty much always stayed to that white, blue, and yellow, and maybe it's like changed slightly, but it's been pretty similar. And then there's the blue jersey we talked about, goalie Vincent Riendeau. What do we got about him? You know, he'd played with the Blues for a couple of years and the Canadians before that. And then if the interesting, the name of the goaltending position there, if I can get it to come up on the screen.
Come on, autofocus. We can do it.
Come on, autofocus. Yeah.
It's like it's something del goal or something. Or
it's del Gardien de But. B-U-T. But. Yeah. Guardian of the butt. God, what are we, 12 years old? Paul Ranheim, Calgary Flames. Good player.
Again, you're underselling it. You know, pulling back the curtain a little bit, I'll send you a little Beavis and Butthead and Simpsons clips on the Slack channel that we have. So you and I have very similar. I think that's why we get along so well. It's because we all like the same stupid things.
Yeah, they are stupid things. Now we have a member of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team, Dave Christian.
How about that?
Played with the Bruins at that point. There you go, autofocus. Again, just love the look of these cards. Like this was ahead of its time for 1990-91.
And I like the on the bottom with the Boston Bruins font and the multiple colors they use for it as well.
So if Wayne Gretzky had what? Brent Gretzky, Neil Broughton has his brother Aaron Broughton. So there you go.
Broughton. I think Aaron Broughton also I think he played for the Devils at one point. I know Neil Broughton did, but I think Aaron did as well.
So yeah, the old North Stars logo there, which is, you know, I'm glad the Wild went back to that color scheme, or going to try and go back to that color scheme with their current jersey look, with that green and yellow. I mean, I love that look together. That's probably why I have a soft spot for the A's, among other things.
What team's he with there? Minnesota, the North Stars.
The North Stars here, yeah. And who else did he play with? Devils.
He played for the Devils for 8 years. He was on all those '80s teams that stunk. That's why I kind of forgot about him.
Well, there you go. He was he was there through the lean times. Now here's an underrated defenseman, Doug Lidster. He was on the 94 Cup Rangers team. He'd played with Vancouver before that. Strong player overall. Can't go wrong with a guy like that on the blue line as your bottom pairing guy. We get another defenseman, or as it says on the card, defenseur. There you go. And by the way, I haven't shown center, but that's literally center with E and R flipped around at the end. There's a nice shot of Craig Ludwig. Good Canadian jersey there. And now we're going to close with a couple of Hartford Whalers here. So you always love that. First, you got Jody Hull with the classic green Whaler jersey. And the last guy is a guy you've already mentioned today in a trade you made in a video game, Pat Verbeek.
How about that? Little ball of hate, Pat Verbeek.
Which is, I'm glad you said that, because that is one of the best nicknames in sports history. The little ball of hate. I mean, come on. It's perfect for hockey, number one. I mean, if you're going to have a little ball of hate, that's the sport you got to have it. 2, it was absolutely true. And 3, that guy, listen, He would do well in today's NHL, Pat Verbeek.
He could definitely play in today's NHL, 100%. And I think he's doing a pretty good job as the GM of the Anaheim Ducks now. Like I mean, look, they're still a few years away. They got a lot of work to do, especially like on that blue line. But you know, they're starting to get some young prospects in there. They just had the #2 pick in this past year's draft. They took the center. I think his name's Carlson, the Swedish guy. So
Leo
they're going to
Carlson.
have, they're going to have a bunch of nice pieces there in a few years to build around, assuming that they can, you know, convince like Trevor Zegras to sign there long term, which might be a little dicey because he's obviously from this area. He probably grew up a Rangers fan because everybody who grows up in this area winds up being a Rangers fan, and
Smart
he also
choice.
happens to be best friends with Jack Hughes, who's on the Devils. So he might want to come back east. So hopefully for the Ducks' sake, they can get him signed. And by the way, Jody Hull, no relation to Brett Hull. I looked that up while you were
None.
discussing.
No relation there. And just looking at the landscape of the Pacific Division, it's fine. And I mean, the Sharks are kind of on the same timeline where they're in no rush to compete for the playoffs. They're going to try and do it the right way, like Verbeek is doing in Anaheim. Mike Greer is trying to do it down in the South Bay. I mean, if you look at the Pacific Division right now, it's Vegas, it's Edmonton. LA is there now for sure. I would say they're the third best team. But then it gets a little, you know, Calgary, we'll see how, you know, no Daryl Sutter in town. So we'll see if that, you know, improves the team because they could not stand him as coach. What is Vancouver? I have no idea at this point. They could be better this year.
I can tell you what they are. They're bad.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the division. I mean, so it's, you know, the time is right now. You're not going to compete with Vegas and Edmonton, and LA, I think, is going to take that jump this year too, and be amongst those like strong top three. So it's fine to not be competing right now. I mean, and you know, let's see what Seattle does. Let's see how if last year was a fluke or if this is a team that's actually going to hang around the bottom of the playoff picture in the Western Conference. But if you want to talk more hockey, you could go over to Better Hockey Now. We're going to go a little baseball now. We got back-to-back baseball packs. Are we going oldie first? We're going to go 1987?
We'll go old school first, and then we'll really ogle some of the cards, you know, the older aesthetic that they're going for in this heritage pack. But
nice use of the word ogle in a HR-friendly manner.
Thank you. So we'll crack open this little wax pack. We do have a Hall of Famer at the very end of this, so stay tuned for that.
And Jared will not be chewing the gum. We've already talked about this on previous episodes. He's not.
No, I will not. But you can hear the snap of it.
I mean, you're not even that close to the mic, and that snapped pretty hard.
Yeah, you'll hear the snap of it as I break it in a few pieces. So let me flip these around because I got the rear of the cards on both ends. So we are going to start with a one-time Yankee, but here he is portrayed as a Toronto Blue Jay, Cecil Fielder.
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, everybody thinks of him as a Tiger, but that, you know, he started off with the Blue Jays, I believe, was his first stop.
Yeah, Blue Jays was his first stop. He was a hell of a player. His son was a hell of a player. They have the weird distinction of both of them finished their careers with the same amount of career home runs, which is an interesting little nugget there. Unfortunately, Prince's career was cut short because of the injuries he was dealing with. But and unfortunately, this is not a rookie card, but it's still a heck of a card to start off a pack with.
If you got a binder, that's a good one to have in the binder as you flip through. It's a nice looking one.
Yep. We'll go to the Milwaukee Brewers. We got Brian Clutterbuck.
Okay.
I know the name's familiar. He's probably working as like a pitching coach somewhere, would be my guess. But this appears this is not a rookie card as well. 86 was his first year with the Brewers. Let's see. Mike Smithson from your Minnesota Twins. Got the old school Twins logo there on the top left of the card, which is very nice.
The old Win Twins logo.
Yep. Jay Howell from the Oakland A's.
All right. Nice. I love the green and yellow again. They talk about it earlier with the Minnesota North Stars, but there it is with the A's. Good look.
And all these cards share this, but I love this as well. I love the wood panel on the outside of it. You remember back in like the 70s and like the 80s, everything had like a wooden panel. TVs had it. Like if you had an Atari, like that had it.
I mean, I grew up in a home with wood paneling as the walls for like most of the house. So yeah,
right.
I know.
So yeah, this was very much the wood panel era.
Yes.
Daryl Boston from the Chicago White Sox. And
He was a good defensive outfielder, Darryl Boston. He was with the Rockies. I believe he was with the Mets for a little bit too. But I love that White Sox look. That is a 1980s look baseball player right there with those
I love
glasses.
that. I love the Sox jersey, and I love those Coke bottles that he has for the glasses as well.
I believe my dad had the same frames circa like 1988.
Well, here's a card my dad would like. A member of the 1986 New York Mets, Mr. Howard Johnson.
Hojo.
Yeah, hell of a player. So
Probably
this has been you think so?
Probably. I mean, if he had a couple of spike seasons, not as bad as Brady Anderson, but
we have Dick Schofield from the California Angels. Back
love
then
that
they
old
were the
Angel
California
logo.
Angels. So we got that.
You're not Los Angeles. You're Anaheim. You're not in Los Angeles. Are the Ducks the Los Angeles Ducks of Anaheim? No, they are not.
No, and they've never claimed to be from Los Angeles either. They were the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, and then they decided to ruin their logo and just become the Ducks.
Correct.
And that's neither here nor there. We already did the hockey portion of the show, unfortunately.
Correct.
I don't say unfortunate. I like hockey, but you know what I mean.
We've moved
on. Rich Yett from the Cleveland Indians.
That's a managerial photo right there, if I ever saw one.
100%. Well, he was a pitcher. This was right after his rookie. Another guy who debuted in 1986. So fairly youthful pack that we have here. We'll move on to from the San Diego Padres, Dave LaPointe.
Okay, he was another guy that bounced around too and pitched for a lot of teams. Love that old brown Padre era look.
Yeah, let's pull that back up just so you can get a better look at that.
There you go.
Kind of a weird photo. It almost looks like he's walking off the mound there. So you couldn't find a better action shot of Dave LaPointe to use than this one?
He looks like he just got yanked at that point.
Exactly, right? Like, and usually, like, when people get yanked from the game, they're not like, all right, like, let's effing go or whatnot. It's usually like, all right, I just gave up a 3-run home run. I'm going to walk to the dugout with my head hung, so.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to give the ball up. And if you do want to give the ball up, I don't know if I want you pitching for me then.
Right. All right, our first manager card of the pack, Mr. Tony La Russa, Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Oakland Athletics.
I don't know if you can see the cat over this shoulder. That's Phoenix. He was adopted from Tony La Russa's Animal Rescue Foundation down in the East Bay in Walnut Creek.
I did not know that Tony La Russa had an animal foundation adoption center.
They're gorgeous facilities. It's not like the stereotypical dreary dark shelter. No, it's like you can move all the animals out and like move an office in there. Like it's not nice.
We got a special insert card of the leaders of the Chicago White Sox. So it would probably not surprise you that Harold Baines led the White Sox in pretty much every offensive category of this era. And then in terms of the pitchers, nice little variety. You have Richard Dotson, Joe Cowley, Floyd Bannister, Bob James, Gene Nelson. So I don't recall the 1986 Chicago White Sox being world beaters. So that would probably explain why there's a bunch of different pitchers there on the leaders scoreboard.
So let's take a look at the 1986 MLB standings. That's the American League right there. The White Sox in the AL West finished first, second, third, fourth, fifth. They were 20 games back of the Angels, but they did finish ahead of the Twins and the Mariners.
Well, let's go to a veteran outfielder here. How about Mr. Rick Manning from your Milwaukee Brewers, who debuted in 1975 with the Cleveland Indians. So at this point, he's a seasoned vet. At this point, he had 1,300 career hits. So pretty good career to stick around in the show for that long. 56 home runs to this point, 445 RBIs. A little bit of a speed guy. I mean, he reached 30 steals in one season, had 164 at this point of his career. So solid career there for Mr. Rick Manning. So good for him.
Guy that gets on base and makes things happen.
From your Texas Rangers, Mike Lloyd.
Okay. That old Nolan Ryan era Texas Ranger logo.
Let's see. Wallace Johnson from the Montreal Expos. Again, a classic uniform right there with those Expos uniforms.
I have a starting lineup that is of that color. I believe it is a Tim Raines one.
Keith Atherton from the Minnesota Twins.
There you go. The immortal Keith Atherton.
Another insert card with the Philadelphia Phillies leaders. So Kevin Gross was, primarily the Phillies pitching leader that year. He still had Mike Schmidt hanging around, so he led the team in home runs and RBIs. But a little Von Hayes, a little Juan Samuel mixed in. So your 1986 Philadelphia Phillies are represented. So if you happen to hail from South Jersey, you can clap your hands on this Labor Day weekend knowing that.
Well, the Phillies finished in second in the NL East that year, but it didn't matter because the Mets were so dominant that even in second place, they were 21.5 games back.
And last but not least, we have a Hall of Famer amongst our midst, and he's already been mentioned in this particular segment by me, Mr. Harold Baines.
There you go. So this is a very White Sox heavy pack. Shout out Bill Zimmerman if you're watching.
Yeah. Send these cards to Bill. I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
Like, what the hell who's sending me random White Sox cards? These are old crappy cards. That might be like the most common set out there. You know how many of those cards went through like Goodwills and Salvation Armies across this country? Or got thrown out by mom throwing out baseball cards.
Oh, man. Well, it is what it is. You know what? Bill will get the last laugh on us because he'll point out that the White Sox have as many world championships this century as the Yankees do.
That's correct.
So it is what it is. But, enough delaying. Let's get to the main event here. The 2021 Topps Heritage baseball cards. 9 cards in this pack, but I'm very excited to see what we have that we are working with here. And fortunately, this is the era where Topps no longer includes the stick of gum in the cards. So that's always lovely.
Yeah, I don't need gum. I could buy gum if I want gum.
Of course,
I don't need
of course, we don't want that. All right, so we are going to start with boyhood photos of the stars with Jesus Luzardo, then of the Oakland A's, but I believe now with the Miami Marlins because he just came up in one of our pack rips either last week or the week before.
Yes, Jesus Luzardo currently with the Marlins, not having the best of seasons, a little bit of underachieving under expectations, but bounce back candidate for 2024.
Nice photo choice of him when he was pitching in Little League, wherever he grew up, and nice font choice. This is a nice old school looking baseball card, so we like that.
And it's a cool concept for like a subset, like the Little League photos. Now he was born in Lima, Peru, so that could be from his days down there. I don't know when he came here, but
from your Kansas City Royals, Mr. Hunter Dozier.
Ooh, that's also a good looking card there with that kind of theater marquee kind of like border to it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like the shot of it looks like this was probably taken during spring training. That's when they take most of these photos, is during spring training. So I'm sure it's somewhere in Arizona. 2021 rookie stars from the Los Angeles Dodgers, Keibert Ruiz and Mitch White.
Now Ruiz is he's with the I believe the Nats now, right?
I think so. Wasn't he in he might have been in the Trey Turner trade. I want to say
about right. Yeah,
don't hold me to it.
No, he's like if you got to pick a guy, he's not a terrible fantasy option at catcher at an awful position.
Yep, and it does have the stats of both players on the back of the card as well. So
that's cool. You like that,
and I like that the back of the card looks like it doesn't look too different than the back of one of these other cards.
And it doesn't have the glossy finish. It has the same texture too.
Yeah, it's very similar texture, very similar look. Obviously, it's different color, but for the most part, they basically looks the same. Like if I put this card face down and where you only saw this part, and put a bunch of other cards down, and you didn't have reading glasses and you couldn't read that it was from 2020, you'd have a hard time picking it out. All right, so from next we have from the California Angels, Los Angeles Angels,
Anaheim Angels.
Anaheim. Future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols.
There you go. Again with that cool marquee look on the border of the card.
And you know what? Cool pose by him on the card too. Like this is Albert Pujols saying, "I'm I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm a bad man.
So I got to go back when I was we were in the Sirius XM days, the year that the All-Star game was in St. Louis, but the new Busch Stadium had just opened. I want to say it was like 2009, something like that. I was there for the home run derby that year. When Pujols came to the plate, literally every person in that stadium stopped what they were doing to watch his up. I mean, the concession workers, everything. Like, if you were a pickpocketer, you probably could have cleaned 40, 50 people easily. Like, I had never seen like a whole venue just like stop because their guy was at the plate showcasing the thing he does best and the reason why many people tune into baseball, the long ball, during the home run derby. And that was cool. Like, that was cool to watch Pujols in a home run derby in St. Louis.
That's cool. I have no recollection of this derby. Did he win that derby?
I forgot because honestly, like, I like the home run derby for the first like round or two, and then I'm like, all right, I can't watch it. It gets tedious after a while.
It gets boring, especially if you've gone to one. Like, I think I've mentioned on the show before. I went to the one at Yankee Stadium that Josh Hamilton didn't win, but he's the only person anyone remembers from that. So apologies to I think Justin Morneau, who did win that home run derby. Let's see, from your Cleveland Indians, Jose Ramirez,
Guardians.
At this time, this was Cleveland Indians.
Good call. So yeah, but yes. Jose Ramirez, what a player.
He's wearing the Indians jersey, and yeah, a heck of a card here. And the back of the card, by the way, remember the Simpsons pack the other day where it was part of, like, you put a bunch of these together, it's part of a puzzle. That's what this one appears to be. So I'm not sure who the puzzle is. I'm not even sure what the right way to display this is. I think I probably had it right the first time, but
it's kind of it looks like a number 10 there, but I just don't, not sure what we're building towards.
I'm not sure either, and it doesn't appear to say on the back of it. It just says puzzle A, so that might be something for the Google machine. Let's see. From the Atlanta Braves, one-time Yankee Shane Green.
There you go. Also, nice spring training pose there.
2021 rookie stars from the New York Mets, Ollie Sanchez and Franklin Colomi, which raises the question, who are Ollie Sanchez and Franklin Colomi? Because if they were still on the Mets, they probably wouldn't be in dire straits right now that they are.
I mean, New York baseball is just atrocious right now. It is just.
I'm not saying that to pick on the Mets. Like, the Yankees are. The Mets have a worse record, but the Mets have a much brighter future than the Yankees.
For sure. Yankees are on the decline. Mets, it's, I know it's tough to continue to have hope for them if you're a Mets fan, but like you said, the future is definitely brighter in Queens than it is in the Bronx.
All right, 2 cards left. James Karinchak from the Cleveland Indians.
All right.
And last but not least, from the New York Mets, we have Thor himself, Noah Syndergaard. And Syndergaard's one of those guys I actually feel bad for, in the sense that, like, he came up, he was, obviously a flamethrower. You probably get one of the most badass nicknames in the sport, being dubbed Thor, the long blonde locks, and, he's throwing the hammer and all that sort of stuff. And now he's a guy who's just a journeyman guy who's bounced around from team to team. He doesn't throw as hard as he used to. He's not even that old. He's probably like 30 would be my guess. And, his career is training to a guy who's probably going to be out of the big leagues in a couple of years. And it's just kind of sad with how much promise that he had when he showed up.
He will be 31 in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's going to be 31 in a couple of weeks. And this is a guy who's been on 5 teams in the last 3 years.
All right. So Thor, good nickname, still not as good as Little Ball I Hate, number 1. Right. Number 2, Jacob deGrom from that era, obviously, and still he's the biggest of the Mets pitchers, but at their peaks, and you're an impartial observer because you're not a Met fan, who was bigger at their peak? Matt Harvey, the Dark Knight, or Noah Syndergaard, Thor? Who at their peak of popularity, who was bigger? I think
Matt Harvey, definitely.
I think Syndergaard was better longer.
He was better longer. There's always a sense of intrigue with him. He was the classic guy, gets to the big city, has a reputation as being a little bit of a party animal and that sort of thing. And he was the first one of those Mets guys to make it and debut. And I would argue Matt Harvey at his peak was a bigger star than Jacob deGrom, even though Jacob deGrom at his peak was the better pitcher. Jacob deGrom's kind of like a quiet, like doesn't really say a lot. I don't know if I want to say mild mannered
all the time, and getting out there, and he was living the Aaron Rodgers life, back then, like when Rodgers first got to New York.
Matt Harvey was enjoying his Labor Day weekends in New York City.
Yes, he was, even when he was scheduled to start. I'm making that up. I don't know that for a fact, but
and then poor Steven Matz was like the fifth wheel.
Yeah. Like when people talk about Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine, that's the Steve Avery right there. Avery was a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but he was definitely the number 4 in that rotation with the Braves back in the early 90s. So we got a couple of pack rips done here. We did 2 baseball, we did 1 hockey, but we close every Rip and Riff here with a starting lineup unboxing. And I have returned the San Francisco Bay coffee box. Well, yeah, exactly. One last effort here. I had a delicious cup of fog chaser this morning, but use the box. Send me some coffee.
Well, send him some coffee. Send me some money.
Yeah, it's a good deal. Just do it. So we got 4, of course. Well, last week we did the 2 because we did the classic doubles. So I only narrowed it down to 2. We're back to our 4 sports system today: basketball, hockey, football, baseball. To go through them and give you a little hint, the basketball one is a legendary big man of the NBA. The hockey one is a little bit of a throwback and kind of aesthetically pleasing. Let's see here. The baseball one is a pitcher who had a very unique windup. And like a hint I'll give is it's in honor of this being the first big college football Saturday. The football one is a college gridiron player that you probably don't know, but still a very cool starting lineup.
Is it a college starting lineup? Okay. All right. So that's an interesting choice. You know what? We've mentioned college football. You kind of teased it earlier in the show, and I'm very curious to kind of see what it is. So let's go with the football one.
And of course, we reveal what Jared did not pick.
Yes, the mystery box.
So we got here Damian Rhodes from the Atlanta Thrashers, the only Thrasher starting lineup ever made.
That's a nice little trivia question because I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed Kovalchuk.
But they stopped making them. The McFarlane's figures started to get bigger after that, like the more realistic ones. So like it was just a timing thing. Now, when you talk about big men all time, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon.
I would have said I honestly thought it was going to be Hakeem. So there you go.
You're like me and my wife when we watch Jeopardy. Like, oh, I knew the answer. I didn't say it. Well, you didn't say it, so.
Well, I didn't say it, but yes.
And then finally from baseball, El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, mid-leg kick there.
You said unique windup. The first name that came to mind was not El Duque. It was Bronson Arroyo.
Bronson Arroyo. Don't know if I would own a Bronson Arroyo starting lineup. I have
maybe when he was on the Reds.
Yeah, that's true. He was cool on the Reds, and he's a huge Pearl Jam fan. I do have a Juan Marichal one downstairs too, who also has a unique windup. But let's not stall here. Let's get to the box break. This is a University of Army 1998 Heisman collection here. This is Glenn Davis, who won the Heisman in 1946. It even comes with a little Heisman trophy there, and
that's
it's got
cool.
And it's got the actual Army like helmet from the air, like the old leather helmet. So
the old leather helmet. He's doing the Heisman pose. I mean, that's a fantastic starting lineup. So with all due respect to Damian Rhodes, I feel like I made the right decision here.
Or Hakeem Olajuwon. Now so in this series, it was the Glenn Davis from the U.S. Military Academy, aka Army, Paul Hornung, Roger Staubach, John Capoletti, Earl Campbell, Marcus Allen, Herschel Walker, Desmond Howard, Rashawn Salam. Was all their Heisman series, and there's no card with this, which is unique. Most starting lineups come with a card. This one does not.
Well, they gave you the freaking trophy, so
yeah. So I'm very fine with that as a trade-off. I don't know how I'm going to store the damn trophy now. Nonetheless, for me, Army games. Me and my dad had a few years where would go up to games, and it's fond memories of doing that with my dad. And so that's why I don't have a ton of college football starting lineups, but This is one of them, and then the other one that could come up one day is a Joe Namath, Alabama one. So stay tuned for that one. Let's get Mr. Glenn Davis out of here. Let's get his football helmet on. We want to keep his head safe. You don't want any head injuries. That's the wrong way. There you go. And then, yeah, there you go. Golden Dome.
How about that? That is
pretty
great. Cool. That's a great starting lineup. Does that have a stand, or is he just stand on his own 2 feet?
It's got a little green patch of field right there. And then here's the Heisman Trophy. There you go. So if you pull back, it actually has like a little like mini plaque. Very realistic looking. I mean,
yeah, nice attention to detail on that. They spared no expense to make sure that you kind of got as authentic a Heisman experience there as you could have with Glenn Davis.
You know what? I'm going to start hunting for the Desmond Howard one because I liked Michigan. So that would be the other one I would want from the Heisman collection from the 1998 series. But there you go. So he's going to be a part of the starting lineup studio audience next week here on Rip and Riff. Let's take a look at who's in the audience this week. Of course, we got Joe Montana and Dwight Clark from last week up there at the book ending the top row. And then in the middle, it looks like we got Don Mattingly trying to take a baseball swing at Montana's midsection there. So don't know what the aggression is for. And then we got Charles Barkley from Team USA 1996 trying to play defense on Dwight Clark, but he ain't getting in the way of history. No. The round mound or rebound is good at a lot of things, but he's not stopping Montana to Clark. No way. Then on the bottom row, we've got a few defensemen here that I decided to trot out. We got 2 Brian Leaches. In the middle, we got a 1998, and then on the right, the cup-winning 1994 year. And then on the left, Sandis Ozolinsh from the Avalanche. I also have his San Jose Sharks one. They only made 2 Sharks starting lineups. His was one, Arturs Urbe being the other. So there you go. There's the starting lineup studio audience for
now. Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
Obviously, I know you're a big Rangers fan. Was there a particular line of thought as to why you went with 2 Brian Leach starting lineups here, other than one is a different jersey?
So there are 2 reasons for that. Number one, they didn't make a lot of defensemen, like Ray Bourque, Brian Leach, trying to think, Rob Blake. Like they made a few, but they didn't make a lot. Number 2, through the magic of pre-taping this, because that's what the beauty of this show is, we can record them in advance. On this week's Better Hockey Now, that'll be coming up soon. That was already a few weeks ago at the time of this recording. We're focusing on defensemen this week, so that's why I got the 3 defensemen trotted out there. So that episode aired by the time this one actually gets to air, but that's the reason for the 3.
How about that? All right, that's a good story. I'll accept that.
There you go. Glenn Davis. Army.
Now, when you display him next week, you're gonna have to put the Heisman in front of him as well.
I think I can make that work. I got it. That's the stand I got for like $17 on Amazon. Is pretty nice. I gotta say, it does its job. I mean, I knock it over once in a while, but there you go. God, my throat is. It's been a long couple of weeks here at the Santa Rosa offices of Better Sports Network. So.
Would you like me to wrap the show and save your voice?
No, I think I could get us through here. But that'll do it for this edition of Rip and Riff here on the Better Sports Network. We'll be back with you next Saturday, the day before the NFL season kicks off on Better Sports Network here. For Rip and Riff, for Mr. Jared Moore, I'm Adam Bernard. We'll be back with you soon on R&R.